let you know that next month our speaker is going to be Kenneth Newman, and he's going to be talking to us about Dolores Ballard. I'm sure y'all used to read her articles in the newspaper. They were just so wonderful. And all of the other programs are scheduled. We have speakers for each one of them, and they're listed on our website, bemishistory.org. And in the newsletter, there was an insert, or there should have been an insert. There were a few that the insert might have been missing. So, do we have extras at the museum, or do you have them at home?
I think there's something like that.
Okay, because imagine my horror after working on that newsletter for hours and hours, and when mine came in the mail, it didn't have an insert. So it's like, oh my gosh, I panicked that nobody had an insert, and the pages were numbered, and so pages 3 and 4 were missing out of mine. So we'll look for that, our extra copy up front. So David Mayo was our speaker at the October meeting, and I asked him that night if he had a bio that I could read. He said there wasn't anything I could read to the public. So some of you agreed that night. So he's our speaker again tonight, and let's all welcome David. Thank you very much.
Joel said I had asked to be vice chairman. Well, I don't think I was asked. I'm like cornered. But that's okay. I'm going to talk to you tonight just real briefly about the Pirtle family history. You've heard many times where I have, that when people back in the old days, they didn't go anywhere. They didn't, they all stayed around. They didn't, leave home. That's not true. That is not true at all. And especially with this bunch here, they were quite nomadic at times. So this building here is in Philadelphia. Basically, it's where most of the people who came into America in the early 1700s went and became citizens here. And this is most likely where my ancestor, the Pirtle family, came in. And that person that came in, well, let me step back. I'm starting in America. It goes all the way back to Germany, but go 8 years from Germany. So I'm going to start with America. And so it started with Michael Leonard Pirtle. He was born in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And his parents, so he was the first generation American in this family. And his parents were Jacob Pirtle and wife Hannah. And they arrived on the ship Mary in the port of Philadelphia on September 29th, 1733. And I know it's kind of hard to believe nowadays, but in that time, that part of Pennsylvania, western Pennsylvania, was wilderness. It was wild, and that's where he decided that he wanted to live. And he moved in. When groups migrate and they settle down, they settle down in groups. Similar groups. Birds will flock together, and so that's kind of what he did. But he didn't stay long. This is when he started moving. He didn't do all that moving. This is the Scots-Irish Trail, and he lived about right there in Pennsylvania. And they moved down this trail to South Carolina, right there, in that area. And that's where Michael Pirtle, the first generation American Pirtle, immigrated down to South Carolina sometime in the mid-1700s. They weren't trying to document things back then, they were just trying to survive. Well, let me get back here. Go back. All right. So, he's in South Carolina, he's living there, you know, doing good. He's like, well, I'm gonna move again. So he moves again. When they opened up Western Kentucky, he moved. Apparently, he liked moving to the edge of things, you know, I guess to get away. So that's what he did here. And in 1797, after they passed the Kentucky Land Act, they granted a bunch of land. It was around Lamington Lakes area right there, Barkley Lake, and all that. It's kind of hard to realize it now, but back then, that was the western border of the country, pretty much. I mean, people could go past it, of course, but at their own risk. But that was the boundary. He went all the way to the end. You know, he said, "I'm going to settle here," and that's what he did. He took advantage of a 1,000-acre land grant in Kentucky, and that was where Michael's journey stopped. See, my notes. He passed away on January 7th, 1820 in Pirtle County. In Caldwell County. He's buried in Pirtle Cemetery. Pirtle Cemetery, probably named after his last name or a variation of his last name. It is right in there, and as you can see by my note right there, is listed as destroyed. And y'all know that kills me. I can't handle that. But that's about where he's buried at right there. His first wife, his wife passed away in South Carolina, and so she's buried in South Carolina. So they're in Kentucky. Michael settles down. They're in Kentucky. He passes away, and so what did they do? They moved. They move again. So basically, his son decided they're going to leave Western Kentucky, and they come. Somewhere. My clicker's not working.
Thanks for you.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so Jacob Pirtle, they moved to West Tennessee, and it was during this time that the United States had purchased West Tennessee from the Chickasaw Indians. And Robert, if you could make sense. Sorry about that. And they purchased the land from the Chickasaw Indians in 1818. And so they had all this land that was available for people to buy. So he decided he wanted to take advantage of that, and so he came by here. And so he sold his land in Kentucky, and it included 100 acres on the Tennessee River for $140 and 200 acres on the Cumberland River for $300. And in Good Speed's History of Tennessee, which most of y'all are familiar with, it states that Jacob Pirtle raised a crop of corn near Hatchetown in the neighborhood of Thomas McNeil in 1821, which was then before it was Hardeman County. And it says, at that river at a point used as a river crossing for the Chickasaw Indians. And so Hatchetown was basically Bolivar before it was Bolivar. And that's Old Hatchetown. If you're going up Highway 18, when you cross the Hatchet River, right before you get to the vet clinic, the Old Hatchet Vet Clinic, there's that sign right there. It was back up on the highest point down there, which was not very high, because that's all bottom land right in there, and that's where Hatchetown was, and that's kind of where they all settled down. All right, on the move 2.0. So this is Jacob here, and so he was born in South Carolina in 1750. Moved to Kentucky for a little while with his family. And then he came down here and acquired 200 acres on the Hatchet River at the mouth of Jim Creek. And Clover Creek, that little red squiggly line I got right there is about where they settled down. You can see the Pirtle Cemetery right there. And you can see King Cemetery up here. That's where most of them are buried. So it seems like they finally found a place to settle down. All right, and right here is a excerpt from the commercial appeal from 1927, 26, sorry. And for some reason, somebody wrote the commercial appeal from Chattanooga asking how Hardeman County was named. So, the answer, you can see the highlighted name. Hardeman County, Tennessee was named for Colonel Jones Hardeman in 1823. Commissioners for the new county were Andrew Vedder, William Boak, Jacob Pirtle, and John Russell. So he was one of the first people here, and he helped settle and create Hardeman County. Go with this. There you go. And so during this time, they finally had enough residents and enough going on to become a county. And that's what they did. They petitioned the state and became a county. And also, in addition to helping do that, it was Jacob Pirtle, was one of the 10 magistrates appointed by William Carroll, the governor, to serve as the first court of pleas and court of sessions that was held in November 17, 1823, under the house of Captain McNeil. All right, so this is where I came in. This is my dad. This is my grandmother. This is my great-grandmother. My great-great-grandfather. Great-great-great-grandfather. Great-great-great-great-grandfather. Great-great-great-great-great-grandfather. I had to get my fingers out. And then the next one is my sixth great-grandfather. So, my dad lived here in Bemis off and on for several years. My grandmother, Lucille Briley, she lived here for several years. My great-grandmother, Willie Pirtle Briley, she lived here most of her life. She was born in Hardeman County. Somehow came to Bemis via Beach Bluff. I still can't figure that out. I don't know what happened there. You do?
I think she
She's mine, by the way.
this is, Papa, and Grandma, her, met at a country, and Papa Riley was playing the fiddle. So that was started.
There it is. I knew his people were from around Potts Chapel, but I just didn't know how they crossed paths, being from opposite parts.
Couldn't find out where that meeting was.
See? People didn't move around a lot, apparently for love, they didn't. No parcels. No parcels. Alright, so Jacob Pirtle, which is the one who lived in Hardeman County, I have a copy of his will. It's on the next slide. I'm gonna read this first part, just real quick. I, Jacob Pirtle of Hardeman County, State of Tennessee, do will and desire these worldly goods and effects to be disposed and divided amongst my children and heirs in the following manner after my decease. First, I give my two daughters, Sally Gibbs and Rebecca Boyd, $100 each. This is 1837. And second, I give my son Michael Pirtle's three children, Sally, Elijah, and Lewis, $100 each to be given to them by my executors when they come of lawful age. Or maybe when they have sense, I don't know. Third, the balance of my property I wish to be equally divided between John Pirtle, Priscilla Scott, William Pirtle, that's my ancestor, Benjamin Pirtle, Mary Jones, and Robert Pirtle. Now this next slide is kind of tells you the real story by the will. Go to the next one. Says four, if I give Isaac Pirtle a legacy, that would be $500 less than that the park will fall into each of the above division. As I think he already received about that much. So somebody was loaning some money out in lieu of an inheritance. And I think that gene was passed down. That was maybe the strongest gene. You can go next one. All right, this is Isaac Walker Pirtle. This is my third great-grandfather. He was born in Kentucky. He was one of the Kentuckians on January 9th, 1820. And he died in Hardeman County, December 27th, 1912. So he lived a long time back then. He married Sarah Elizabeth Toone in 1844. And he later married Narcissa Knuckles in 1893. And I believe that is her in that picture, just based on their age and the dress and everything.
Is that Toone, Tennessee?
I'm getting to that. I'm getting to that.
Gracie is his, he is Gracie's great-granddad, right, Gracie? Gracie. How do you think, great or great-great?
I can't remember.
Great.
Can't remember all of it.
So this guy here, he was something else. I found quite a bit of stuff on him. You go to the next slide. I can share what I found for the most part. And just for reference, this wasn't the Isaac he was talking about on the $500 bill. This is his grandson. So apparently, in his older age, he liked to hang out at the Bolivar Bulletin newspaper. And they have several articles about him. And this one here, the first one, if you can't read it, it says, Mr. Isaac Pirtle of the 15th District was on Bolivar Friday. Now, he lived in Cloverport. So in the 1890s, 1880s, I mean, to get to there from Cloverport to Bolivar was a pretty good trip. But he liked going apparently. Says, though not the oldest citizen in the county, Mr. Pirtle is the oldest resident, having lived in Hardeman 79 years. Notwithstanding his advanced age, 81 years, and the unfortunate accident which he met about 18 months ago, having his leg broke by a falling tree, he is still active and cultivated a crop this year. He rides with the ease and grace of an expert equestrian and can swim the Hatchie River without effort. It's 8 feet, which you accomplished a few weeks ago. So I don't know if he gets a crowd together, just where he can do it. Go to the next one. It's new. I like this one. It says, Uncle, apparently that nickname, Uncle Isaac Pirtle of the Cloverport neighborhood was a pleasant visitor at the bulletins, back at the newspaper again, on Office Monday. He is in his 83rd year, hale and hearty, and has not taken a dose of medicine since 1862. Probably is. He says, the boys tell me I'm old, I'm growing old, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it. Long may the grand old man live. So he was very proud, and the purple longevity is a thing. It is a thing. We'll see when I get older. Yeah. How are you now? 82. You're doing good. All right, you go to the next one. All right, here's one more on him. It says, our old friend, Mr. Isaac Pirtle, the 13th District, was in Bolivar Monday. He's back in Bolivar again. Mr. Pirtle informs us that 75 years ago, March 1st, 1822, he in company with his father's family landed in Hardeman County. At that time, he was only 2 years of age. He has ever since resided within a short distance of where his father first settled. Mr. Pirtle is one of our most honored and respected citizens. He is a man of remarkable memory and can narrate many interesting recollections of early days in Hardeman County. Although he has advanced in years, he is still hale and hearty as a turning man, and is an active businessman. Long may he live. Now, his first wife was a Toone. If you go to the next slide, just real quick, that's James Toone. That was her father. the city of Toombs named after him. And you can see I couldn't stand it being dirty, so I cleaned it. That was, he's buried at Toombs Cemetery, and that cemetery is full of pearls. It was originally a church cemetery, the Greenwood Cumberland Presbyterian Church. And in true family history fashion, Toombs is one of the most bustling cities in Tennessee, right? Right? It's not. It's not. And there, I talked to Sadie Rogers, and she told me that she believed that there was a picture of him at the bank there in Toombs. And I found a picture of him. So, well, I'm not sure because his son had the same name. I'm not sure if it's him or his son's picture. I'm still working on that. Go to the next slide. All right. So other pearls of note are this is my great grandmother's brother, Eugene Pirtle. He moved to Florida. In the early 20th century, there was a big homestead that was promoted by the government to get people down to Florida. Now people are trying to get out of Florida. It's pretty crowded now, so whatever they did worked. Next slide. And he owned property with a bunch of other people on Merritt Island, where now stands the Kennedy Space Center. And he was an enterprising man as well. This is Eugene. He's from Hardeman County. He was in real estate. He built the shopping center. He lived in Titusville, which is just east of Orlando, close to Cocoa Beach, right there on the coast. And he did bought buildings and did real estate. He was the vice mayor of Titusville. And he was involved. I found a lot of articles where he was arguing with people about stuff in the city. So that's, he was really engaged in what was going on. Go to the next slide. And he was also the president of the bank, or one of the banks in Titusville. That is him right there. All right, go to the next slide. And this is his son, Clyde Pirtle. He lived down there too. He was a lieutenant with the Florida Highway Patrol. With the Kennedy Space Center being nearby and all that going on with his dad's politics and all that, I'm sure. Long story short, he was really close friends with President Kennedy, John Kennedy. Been to his house. He called him John. If that tells you anything. He called him John and James. And if you go to the next slide, that's a picture of Clyde given the first driver's license. That's Edward, Duke of Windsor, the guy who advocated his throne for love. So he moved too, right? That's what we're doing. So he was a real interesting guy, and he was somebody else too that was really engaged in the community, much like his ancestors. Next slide. Florida, Titusville, Florida. All right, so Edna Pirtle, you can stop right there. That's Edna Pirtle right there. She was born in Hardeman County. This is my great-grandmother's Willie Pirtle. It's her sister. While she's not well known, her daughter is well known, and I want to see if you can tell me who she is. Go ahead and show that. Go ahead and show that next slide. Do you recognize her daughter?
Yes.
I know you do. I told you. You may recognize her daughter? Does the name Betty Page ring a bell with anybody? Betty Page was, well, that wasn't a trick question, because Betty Page was one of the original pinup girls in Playboy, and she was basically a model and actress. She later in life, she converted to Christianity, and, but that's her daughter. There, she's very, very well known in Hollywood. She was a part of the whole Hollywood thing back in the day. And still is. She's real popular. I mean, they did a movie about her just a few years ago. But she has roots just right up the road there in Hardeman County. All right, so what does all this have to do with Bemis? I know that's what y'all wonder. I mean, this family here, I mean, I could talk till morning, but I cut it short for y'all's benefit. So, you may recognize this guy, Jimmy Pirtle. All right, Jimmy Pirtle is a 1950 graduate of Zibian High School. He's living in Atlanta right now. A lot of the research that I found, if you go to Google and type in Pirtle history, it's going to be all his work just about that show. But he has done a tremendous amount of work for them, and he's a Bemis guy. His dad, he told me that his dad moved down here and worked at the mills. That's him now, right there. That's him. He's 91 years old. He texted me that picture a while back. But he's a great help, and he's just a super guy. Really, I've learned a lot from him. And this is him as a teenager, and then the tombstone that he's standing beside is fourth great grandfather's. I didn't think about it for a second. My fourth great grandfather, which is an ancestor that he and I share at the Pirtle Cemetery. Other Pirtles in Bemis, and we have some here in the room here. Ellis Pirtle, that's her dad. Another Pirtle who had Hardeman County roots with the others, retired machinist with Bemis Mill. And I believe your name's on there, isn't it? I believe your name's on there, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. And of course, you know, I'm a little biased, but this is my favorite. This is my great grandmother. They lived in several areas of Bemis. Her husband, my great grandfather, James Jasper Riley, he worked for the mill. They lived in various spots. When she passed away, she lived over on just right down the street here on Missouri Street. So don't worry now. Go ahead and go to the next. There's another Bemis Pirtle. Maureen and Marion Pirtle. And go to the next slide there. That's Robert Sidney Pirtle. That's James Pirtle's father. And the next slide is going to be his mother. Another Bemis connection to Pirtles. So they moved where the opportunity was. And I don't like to say the word activism because it's divisive, but on the next slide you see this Pirtle here, Lewis Pirtle. Well, Lewis Pirtle was a resident of Bemis, and when the city of Jackson tried to annex it, he didn't like it, and he was very, very vocal about that. I saw several things. He did not have a very high opinion of Bob Conger while all this was going on. He later, as a matter of fact, published a public apology for the things that he had said about Bob Conger, about the attempts to annex Bemis. But then, after the dust settled, he said, this is kind of nice having all these services here we didn't have before. So, it takes a special man to, realize that, hey, maybe I was a little wrong on that. So, but that's just a continuation. Go to the next slide. And he is also buried at Bemis Cemetery with the rest of the family. But just this, it's just it's in line, with just a few things that I found with people being engaged in community, being a part of something, and fighting to keep it. you know, and all the women around, you know, they didn't move just to move, they moved to make it better, and better for their families, and, you know, that's what they did. You go to the next slide. And so that's kind of what I want to end on. You know, you think about, you know, when you're dealing with the computer, your internet's down, or your Facebook's down, it won't come up, you know, or your power flickers, or it's out for a couple of hours. We think about those things. But when you think about somebody moving to this spot, this is a current picture. You see what kind of wilderness that is now. I mean, can you imagine in 1820 when they came into that area, just a handful of people at the time, you know, the pioneer spirit that they had, and just the grit and determination, you know, to make a life. You know, I mean, we're all sitting in this room tonight because of people like this, and so I mean, it is a testament. But I will say the pioneer spirit stopped with me because I'm not leaving Benson. I'm done. I'm done. I did live in Jackson for a few years. I didn't like that, so I went back. So, but you know, it's just a testament to, you know, the kind of people they were, and it was nice to find, you know, different things in articles that kind of give you a glimpse or person, you know, a glimpse or a window into their personality and their lives. That's all I got. So, a show of hands, who's a Pirtle? Who's a Pirtle in the room? Are there any Pirtles in the room? There you go. So y'all be careful, we're everywhere. You better behave. That's right. That's right. Like Santa Claus, we're everywhere.